one of the burning questions, we'll give folks a little preview of what they can get in the guide, but one of the questions that you and Sean addressed in the guide was your expectations for the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers coming in with so many pieces in place there. High expectations for this team despite having not made the playoffs in more than a decade. How do you feel things are going to play out for Aaron Rodgers out there?
Well, there's a lot of doubters out there. I mean, there's a lot of people, oh, going to bet the under with the Jets. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not going to make a difference. I'm like, wait a minute here. You don't know what the Jets are getting then. I mean, look, anything and everything can happen. I get that. But the track record of Hall of Fame and waiting type of players, like an Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, even Phillip Rivers, if you want to go there. I mean, I don't know if he's Hall of Fame. I think he's a Hall of Fame player eventually. Kurt Warner, Joe Montana, Warren, I can go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. When you have these guys that have chips on their shoulders, when one team's saying that they're done, but yet another team is suggesting, no, they're not done, or we want them, or is this particular player, this Hall of Fame player in waiting, looking for a fresher message? It got stale out there for Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay. Hell, he didn't have to show up and he was making $50 million. I mean, what motivation do you have, right? Now he's engaged. He's changed the energy offensively, and he's motivated out there in New York. And he knows that his legacy is at stake here too. And I think here's the notion about a great, phenomenal player. I use a lot of adjectives right there. But they have to have something that they're chasing, Stormy. Like when you're no longer chasing something, then you're bored because it's too easy for you. But if you're motivated, or if you're fearful of something, or if you're absolutely chasing something, then all of a sudden now you're a great player who's motivated. Mm. So all those other great quarterbacks I just mentioned, Peyton Manning got to Denver after Tim Tebow and went from 8-8 to, I think they won 13 games. And that's a guy who had 4 neck surgeries and got cut.
Yeah.
I have high expectations because the Jets want Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron wants to be there. He wants to be back with Nathaniel Hackett. So I think the talent is around him too. It's a playoff roster. It really is. And now you have a Hall of Fame quarterback that's motivated. So I'm not an naysayer. I'm not at all a naysayer when it comes to the Jets.
Well, and I like the way you put that, because he goes from what you called a stale, situation out there in Green Bay. Obviously had a bit of a tumultuous situation with the front office and the way that things had gone. He also had young weapons to deal with that hadn't matured yet, whereas you go to the Jets now, who, yes, they too have young weapons, but even without a great quarterback last year, were able to set the tone in a dynamic way.
Right.
You have Garrett Wilson, who ends up being the offensive rookie of the year at wide receiver. You have Breece Hall, who was on that track through 7 games before dealing with his injury. He's going to come back with, a newfound desire to want to be great coming off of a difficult injury. And also with Rodgers and the want to be there, he brings over Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb, who aren't, expected to be incredible playmakers, but they know the verbiage, they know Aaron, they know what he likes, they can facilitate that message. He's the familiarity, obviously, with Nathaniel Hackett that we addressed earlier is all very, very significant, I think, for this Jets team. So then, from a betting perspective, does that mean, are we hitting all of the props overs? Are we taking the win total? Are you laying the juice for them to be a playoff team, or would you prefer to bet the division? How are the angles from a betting perspective, you think, here?
I mean, 39.50.5 for passing yards, the over. I mean, you can think about the stadium that they play in and the swirling winds that can happen at points in time during the year. But he was in Green Bay. And he was multiple time MVP, right? No, I like the over situations for Aaron Rodgers and the passing yards. Breece Hall coming back from injury, I would stay away from that. You just don't know what's going to materialize right there. But certainly Garrett Wilson, he is going to have, he should have a phenomenal year. They have so many other players. And you mentioned Cobb and Lazard and people like that. They're going to bring in the example and the nuances for Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, to me, takes a leap forward from year 1 to year 2. And we often see that. We often see a rookie player, and whether you're rookie of the year or, all rookie or whatever, and then you take that next step because the game becomes easier for you.
Yeah.
And with a quarterback like this, I mean, the world is going to be completely different for Garrett Wilson than it's ever been before catching the rock from a Hall of Fame quarterback.
So tell me what you think about this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I want to bet Jets, like win total, stuff like that, off the top of the preseason.
Okay.
I'm looking at the way that their schedule shakes out. They open the year. All eyes are going to be on that Monday Night Football game against Buffalo to start things out on national television. Then they're at Dallas the next week. The Patriots, I know that things haven't been sunshine and rainbows for them in recent history, but always a tough out. Then Kansas City. Then the Denver Broncos, who we expect to be significantly better. Then the Eagles. You go down just the start of that season, that maybe with them kind of easing in, figuring things out, if they dropped a couple of games early, look at the way that the back half of their schedule shakes out. A lot of opportunity to potentially pad the win column later on in the year and get back into position. So maybe if those numbers, if they lose a couple games, those numbers get put down a little bit, maybe you can buy in midseason.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Stormy.
I mean, that's a risk if you have very high expectations for the Jets, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of at least an approach I might go into this season.
Yeah, you're hoping that they stumble, right? But the opposite side of this, and this is a player's perspective, and, I think when you play in a tough division, and you can make an argument that the AFC East is the toughest division this year. I played in a couple of them. I played in the AFC West back when the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Seattle Seahawks, we were all in Denver Broncos back in the heyday. And then the NFC West way back when, Stormy, when, every year we're playing San Francisco twice, we're playing the Saints twice, the things like that. So I guess competition brings competition, though. Iron sharpens iron, right? So I look at it this way. The Bills and the Cowboys and all those teams at the beginning of the year, they got to face Aaron Rodgers more so than Aaron Rodgers facing them, and that's how I would look at it as a player. And how are they going to react to the Jets team that's got a culture change, that's got an attitude change from Robert Saleh, that a defense that a lot of people envy right now, and a physical presence too, and a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like the Bills, they have to play a Hall of Fame quarterback. The Dallas Cowboys, they have to play a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I look at it that way. And how do they match up? So on the other side, like if the Jets get out to a hot start, then what are the numbers going to look like, right? So to your point, I hope that they do stumble and people kind of still discount them, because I think there would be an opportunity throughout the course of the year to look at the Jets again.
Just trying to come up with some ways to bet on this team, because if you bet them right now, this is the top of the market for them after they got Aaron Rodgers and they have all these high expectations, the numbers are shorter than they would have been. So coming up with some angles, but obviously, yes, if they come out the gates and they dominate the Buffalo Bills and Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson are connecting like crazy and Breece Hall looks great coming back from injury, then it's going to be, those numbers are just going to get wildly shorter for sure. I'm excited to see what that offense ultimately looks like, though. We'll get, you're not going to see much from the Hall of Fame game, but, our first time seeing him in the green 8, which is already kind of visually a little bit odd.
He's going back to college, right, with that number? 8. Yeah, I mean, just everything's fresh again. And again, a great player who's motivated. It's, I think it could be a phenomenal situation.
I wonder, because they don't have, there's a lot of different prop markets that have opened up, but the interceptions ones haven't been listed yet. I'm curious what that'll be, because obviously such an uncharacteristic year for him with the 12 picks, what number that'll ultimately get set at. This is just the tip of the iceberg, though. Plenty more insight and content like this from Pritch, from Sean King, from our expert handicappers in this year's NFL betting guide. You can sign up now. It's going to drop Thursday, $19. We also have the VSiN Summer Kickoff Special, $175. Everything we do now through the Super Bowl. Don't miss out on the awesome content, guys.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.